Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. When we're writing a book, we focus so much on getting our words onto paper that we forget about the next step, getting those words out into the world with confidence. And that's exactly what today's episode is all about. I'm bringing you the LinkedIn Live that I did with Lavinia Thanapathy on May 9th, 2023. Lavinia is a LinkedIn top voice, two-time TEDx speaker, and author of Unleash Your Voice. In this conversation, Lavinia talks about how most of us are performing at an 8 or 9 out of 10 with regards to our expertise. But we're only communicating that expertise at about a 3 out of 10. Yeah. All that knowledge we have to offer, it's getting lost because we're not confident in how to share it. So whether you're doing book launches, speaking at events, or building your authority, the insights that Lavinia shares are absolute gold. So let's dive into this conversation on how to unleash your voice. Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a curly girl in the house today. I have Lavinia here from across the pond. We're on opposite sides of the world today, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time. I'm so excited she's here because I'm a huge fan. So, Lavinia, before we get stuck in, could you please just introduce yourself to everybody and let them know who you are and what you do, and then we'll get stuck in.
Oh, thank you so much, Jillian, for having me here. I'm so excited to be on your live. I've seen only a Jillian and friends, and I get to be one of the friends now. Oh, I'm so excited. So I'm Lavinia. I'm a professional speaker. I'm based here in Berlin, Germany, but I'm from a little island in Asia called Singapore. And the picture behind me is actually a little bit of the color of, let me turn my head. See, this is the colorful place I'm from. These are some of the windows and doors of my fabulous little island, Singapore. I am a professional speaker who speaks to companies about change is my big topic. I talk about how we can change only when our emotions are ready for us to change. I'm a LinkedIn top voice, so I help people with their LinkedIn presence, which is how Jillian and I originally met. And I am because I'm a professional speaker, I have been helping primarily other women be better at speaking. So I edited and wrote a book called Unleash Your Voice, Powerful Public Speaking for Every Woman. And this I did when I was president of Primetime Professional and Business Women's Association. And from that, we started a women's speakers directory. And the final thing I do is I speak about women and girls and creating a more equal future for us all. I am the founding chair of Inspiring Girls in Singapore, and I do a lot of work in gender equity. And we also know each other because we both participated, I think, in the This Little Girl Is Me campaign in the run-up to the International Day of the Girl. So yeah, I know Jillian from all kinds of different worlds.
I love it. I love it. And we were both part of the LinkedIn Rocks conference, and you so eloquently coached all of the speakers. And to be honest with you, I would just say that I did yes for the whole thing just to have that time with you, because we learned. All of the ladies of LinkedIn all walked away and just said, oh my gosh, I am now going to up my game. And I think it just made the quality of our presentation so much better because you gave us some fabulous coaching. So thank you for that. That was absolutely awesome. And I am in the midst of reading your book. And I don't know if you mentioned in your introduction that you also are a 2-time TEDx speaker. And I have watched both of them, and I loved Embracing the Crazy because you did your TEDx talk from a couch.
I know. It was, it's been my dream, like so many people, to do a TED Talk. And when the first opportunity presented itself, it was during Corona. And really, I until that point, I really my strength was being on a stage, and to sit on a sofa and deliver my talk was just, oh, honestly, it was so painful. I recorded it, I don't know how many times, and it was just awful. Each one was just as bad as the last. It was so uncomfortable. So I decided to lean into that discomfort and share it with the audience. And as soon as I did that, I got into a much better flow. So this is what actually one of the top tips I give people is if you are feeling something that's very negative or something that's not quite gelling, just saying it out loud sometimes can help you. Walking onto an audience, and I quite often speak to bankers, and my usual line is, I went to law school. I really don't know a lot about numbers. So I'm super intimidated by being in a room full of bankers. So it's often a great way to break the ice if you're feeling any way insecure. It's a great way just to connect with the audience, because that's what you're there for. Whenever you're on a stage in front of a camera like this, you're looking to connect, because it's only when you connect can your message get through.
Absolutely. And I think what is like, first of all, I recommend everybody go watch your TED Talk, because Embracing the Crazy was an incredible, it was so well done. But I loved how you began it, because you literally said, I'm going to be honest with you. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I want to be doing this on a stage, and I'm on a couch. And you talked about it being Corona. Your topic was about change. This was the biggest change most of us have ever lived through in our lives. But what I thought was especially genius was that you used the couch as a metaphor for, we're all sitting on a comfy couch, which is our comfort zone. And our topic today, I'll pull up our banner. Our topic today is unleashing your voice, which is another metaphor, because, as a dog owner, I know about unleashing your dog, taking your dog off leash, our hair, like we both have curly hair. We both have that. When we were younger, this was not acceptable. You were supposed to, leash it. You were supposed to tie it back, make it tidy. We've unleashed our curls. We're embracing our curls. So when you talk about unleashing your voice, that is a wonderful metaphor. So tell me, where did you even come up with that phrase? Because it's with the book, it's with this talk, it's, so many different things. So talk about that for a second.
Oh, I could talk about this for hours. But yes, it's really, so most people are good at what they do. Okay, I'm going to start with this. If you're listening to us and you don't think you're good at what you do, I'm going to tell you, really, you are good at what you do. This is why you are in the position that you're in. It's why you are where you are. You are good at what you do. So if most people will come in, if I was to grade their performance, it would probably be around an 8 or a 10. This is where most people sit, because we're a very high performance culture. People are performing well. But if I was to gauge how well you articulate yourself, your ideas, your thoughts at work, I'm going to guess most people are around a 3. So if you're an 8 or a 10, and what you're performing is around a 3, what people get out of you, the ideas that actually make it out into the world, instead of the 10 ideas you had, you only got 3 out into the world, then that's what you're being judged on. So until you can turn the things that are in your head into words coming out of your mouth, you will not be able to get to fulfill all the things that you can do. And this is what unleashing is about. What's in here and what's coming out of your mouth need to be so much better coordinated. And this is a skill. Everybody can do this. Some people do have some natural tendencies. Some people are more extroverted. I do have the benefit of being an extroverted person. Absolutely, that holds me in good stead. But I have trained introverts. I have trained accountants. I have trained people who only ever wanted to sit behind a computer, but they knew they had to get out there. And this is the unleashing process. This is when you get your ideas out into the world. We sit there and we see other people less qualified, with less good ideas, getting ahead in the world. You know why? Because they knew how to put their words out there. It doesn't matter how much you can write down. People are persuaded when you speak. That is the power of this medium. That is the power of standing up in front of an audience. People are impacted by your words more than what you write or anything else. So learning to put what's in here into words coming out of here is crucial to getting ahead in your business, in your career. And it honestly doesn't matter what your career is. It doesn't matter what your business is. If you are not out there and able to articulate it and to persuade people and connect with people with your words, I'm afraid nothing much is going to change. Those other people, the silly people, the people with less good ideas, they're going to get ahead.
That's beautiful. And it's absolutely true. And it's interesting. I'd love to just share a quick little story with you. When I first graduated from university, I was working my first job was I went to work at a library. And I was working under a woman who was she was my boss and she was my mentor. And she was one of those people where you just went, she could be the president of the United States. Like, she was so powerful, so knowledgeable. And I remember that she did a training and she was impeccable at training all the new hires. And she was offered a new job. And she told me, I'm not taking the job. And I said, why are you not taking the job? You're so qualified. And she said, I don't like public speaking. And she said, and I don't take jobs that require communicating, standing up, talking in front of a room, even if it's 3 people. It's outside my comfort zone. I can only do one-to-one training. And I remember hearing this, and it was like all of a sudden she went from being this most incredible person in my mind to somebody who was playing so small in life. And I remembered thinking to myself, even as an introvert, because I am a self-professed introvert, that I would never let that be my stumbling block, because I thought, I have ideas I want to share, I want to talk about. I don't know how to do it, but I think that there are ways I can learn. And then somebody said, have you heard about Toastmasters? It was like the same week. And I just went, synchronicity, I'm going. And I joined Toastmasters and I learned how, it wasn't an innate talent for me, but you can learn. Anybody can learn this. And, there's no need to be small. Don't be small in life.
Nope, there is absolutely no need to do that. And one of the things you learn in Toastmasters, for instance, and I encourage you to, the people listening, you see Jillian, see how she is. I've not been a member of Toastmasters, but I have encouraged my students and people who've come to me to join Toastmasters, because it is very powerful training. And one of the things you learn in Toastmasters is the ability to, the skills, the little skills that make it easier for you to transmit your ideas, which is all we're trying to do. Public speaking isn't about, speaking in front of thousands of people most of the time. For most of us, it's standing up in a meeting and being able to present an idea. For people in business, it might be to do a video in which you explain why people should be doing business with you, or it might be a pitch meeting. So for many people, it's not an arena with thousands of people. You're trying to further some part of your career or your business. And the skills that you need to do that, they're within everybody's reach. Some people, once they've looked at themselves, and one of the great things about Toastmasters, they force you to see yourself. They make you video and watch. It's cringe. Oh my God, I've seen people watch themselves on video and they're like trying to run away in themselves. If they could hide within themselves, they would. I don't, look, I've been a professional speaker for 10 years. I don't love watching myself on video, but I do it. I do it because that's how we learn what works and what doesn't work. I'll tell you the small things that I've discovered. I'll share 3 things. Okay, I'm going to share 3 things. The first thing that I've discovered is most people speak too fast. There are more people in the world that speak English as a second language than there are people who speak English as the first language. So when you're speaking to any audience, you're going to have a good number who speak English fluently. but who are speaking it as a second language. So if you speak too fast, or if you include too many colloquialisms or references that are very particular to your country or your region or your area, it's hard for people to catch up to you. And because I often have an international audience, most companies that hire me are international companies, and they want me to speak to their international teams. I am very conscious and I don't speak very fast, but I used to. And now I have learned to moderate. And you only learn to do that by tip number 2, which is when you practice, don't practice in your head. You know, this is how people practice their speech. They're reading it silently. They got the thing in front of them and they're reading it silently in their head. This is not the way to practice, people. This will not serve you because it's not practicing in context. You need to stand up. If your speech is going to be delivered standing up, please stand up. And the other really magical thing you can do is a tool that we all have, and it's in our phone. It's called voice memo. Just record yourself, say it out loud, play it back to yourself, and you will cringe. I hear you, you will cringe. And then you'll hear where the intonations went wrong. Something went wrong somewhere, you said something badly, and then once you've got it down pat, you like the way that sounds, you can just keep playing that back to yourself when you're running, when you're doing anything, and that's how you remember your speech. That is point 2. Point 3 is if you can, try not to read. Know your topic, trust that you know your topic, and then use the voice memo, point 2, remember voice memo? And repeat it to yourself until you could do the speech inside out, backwards and forward. So I have been in situations where my PowerPoint hasn't worked. Actually, my very first talk, my very first paid talk was with the Accor group, their hotel group. And I was there and all the AV equipment did not work. Nothing worked except the mic. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this with no PowerPoint. My first time getting paid to do this. And I have no PowerPoint. And I spent so much time on my beautiful PowerPoint. And I delivered it for half the talk without PowerPoint. And you can only do that. And you must be prepared to do that if you are going to present your ideas. You should be able to present them with no tools whatsoever. By all means, use the tools that are available to you. But if you don't have them, you should have enough in yourself, in your words, to be able to present those ideas. So those are my 3 top tips.
Those are fabulous. Those are fabulous. And, it's so true about, nobody wants public reading. Public reading is boring for starters. Plus also too, as soon as you look down at the page, you're disconnecting with the audience. And what are we going to do? We're probably going to pick up our phone. We're going to check, what's going on in LinkedIn, what's happening on Twitter. It's like we will disconnect from you as the speaker. So yes. I know you actually, I went, hooray, when I read this in the book, is I've always tried to memorize when I give a formal speech, I memorize my first line, I memorize the last line, and I've got my 3 points, as little pictures, because then pictures help me remember things. I'm a very visual person. And then that's how I do my speeches. And it's like people are like, where's your notes? And it's just like, no notes. I never do notes, but I do when I practice. And I love that tip about, recording it, because I've given speeches and I've listened to myself in the car on the way to the speech. And it's me talking to me. And it just helps solidify it in my brain. Okay, this is what I'm going to say. And nobody knows your script. So if you forget a line, you forget a point, nobody knows but you.
That's absolutely right, which is why I don't encourage memorization. You're right. That's exactly the reason you should memorize. The only things to memorize are your starting sentence and your finishing sentence, because once you have those down pat, the rest will follow. So I love that method that you just shared with us. Follow Jillian's method. Jillian's method is perfect. This is what you need to do. And if you do this, you won't stumble. So if you forget a story, no one knew it was supposed to be in there. If you stumble over a statistic or a name, it doesn't matter. just to keep going forward. No one will notice except you. You're the only one who notices. So don't do anything for your own comfort when you're on the stage. So as soon as I get onto a stage or turn on this camera, as soon as I'm here, I'm not worried about me anymore. I have checked.
Mm.
I don't have spinach in my teeth. It's good. I'm not going to suddenly turn into Ashwarya Rai or anything like that right now. I look the way I look. I can't change it. This is it. So looking at myself in the mirror or into the camera, it's not going to change anything. So from the moment I start, I am in the mindset of service. And I am thinking about what I can do for you. What can I do for the people who have given their precious time to come and listen to me speak, who have tuned into this live, who have come here. And when you are in the mindset of service, that you are here to give and not to receive, you're here to give, you will not focus on yourself. And that is every single person I've trained who stumbled was very self-focused. And as soon as they stop being self-focused, they stop being so self-conscious. And when you're not self-conscious, you can be in the space of generosity, of sharing the things that are in your head. Again, the things that are in your head that you think are self-evident, but that can serve the people who are listening to you. So it's really powerful to do it that way.
I love that. I love that. And so just as one quick thing, because I know, and then I want to take some comments, but one quick thing. I know the one thing that people ask all the time is, when does the fear go away? Because a lot of people, they're very, very frightened. They say, they don't, speaking is worse than death, that they're so afraid of public speaking. So you've done the TED Talks, you do this, you're a professional speaker. Do you still get nervous?
Yes,
And does the fear
of
go
course.
away?
It's a human reaction. We get a adrenaline spike. So you need to know what your nervous response is. And although I am not nervous, my physiologically, we're primitive creatures. My body thinks this is like a saber-toothed tiger being in front of a camera. It is in fight or flight mode. It would like to run away, and I can't control that. That is a part of my natural reaction. And my natural reaction is actually dry mouth. So, ta-da! The solutions to dry mouth. So you need to know what your physiological response is. What is it? Your body is going to feel threatened anytime you have to present yourself. And that's the reality. It doesn't matter. And the more times you do it, of course, it gets easier. Absolutely. I've been doing it for 10 years. This is a lot easier for me. But I still know I get dry mouth. So I will sort that out. Other people shake. Their hands shake. And this is why you should not hold notes if your hands shake. And if your hands shake, the best thing to do is to have something to hold on to. So you will see some people hold on to a pen, a pointer, or you can have something in your pocket. So a little rock, a handkerchief, anything that you can hold on to in your pocket or in your hand will serve you well. So sometimes, even though a person doesn't need a pointer, I've given them a pointer just to have something to hold in their hands. And
Brilliant.
for many people, this is very helpful.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so let's hop over to some comments. Oh, there's quite a few. So we have the lovely Jeff Young ready to listen to the voices of wisdom, Jillian and Lavinia. Woo-hoo-hoo. Marcia says, hello, Jillian and Lavinia. First period is about to begin. I love it that people see this as learning and as school, because there are so many great tips that we are sharing today. I just absolutely love it. Marcia, good to see you. Always a back and forth of everybody having fun in the comments. Stella De Silva, who we both know, Stella is lovely. She has told all her lovely young ladies to join in today over in Oman to be listening and learning from us. And I love this worldwide experience. We have the lovely John Asperian. Good to see you both. TEDx from the couch is impressive. That is so impressive. And, you just think that is another part of public speaking too, Lavinia, is being flexible and being aware of, okay, if I'm going to speak somewhere, what if the PowerPoint, what if the screen goes out or my computer dies or something like that? It's all these abilities to be flexible and adapt. And this is all part of the journey of public speaking. And we can either be like, okay, freaked out by it, or we can just see it as a way that I love you mentioned in your TED talk that amazing is on the other side. It's lurking behind the changes and the things that are scaring. Amazing can kind of come out of it. So that's what's so fun. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Good adaptation to a different stage by leaning into the couch, so to speak. And that was brilliant that you use that as such a great metaphor because when we have metaphors like that, Lavinia, that's what I take away.
Right.
It's like you had said before that like when you're speaking, you want to appeal to people intellectually but also emotionally, correct?
Right. Absolutely. Look, when we first launched the book, we did a tour of the different associations and we spoke at the British Association and the American, all kinds of different places. And I would often take, and actually I might even have one here. So I have a different one, but here. I have a Lego, I have this diversity Lego here, but I would take along actually a piece from my son's Lego collection. I'd take an X-Wing fighter or something along. And the way I describe public speaking is like, when they give you a toy like when they give you a Lego set, what they give you is all the pieces. And that's what you have in your head. You have all these pieces.
Mm.
And what you're doing with your words is helping the audience put those pieces together, just like a Lego. They're putting that together in their head. And they will put it together with your words. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to build that picture in their head. And so whatever it is you use, whether it's the couch, whether you use a piece of Lego, if you have something physical you can bring to the game, it does help. I'm going to say, even on a video call like this, on video, it helps to have something physical. I do a talk on personal branding. And in that talk, I start without a necklace. And I ask my audience to help me pick a necklace. I go, oops, I forgot to wear a necklace. And would you help me pick a necklace? And I will have a branded necklace. This is a branded necklace. And then I will have one that that I bought from an artisan that I actually love, but I can't recommend because there's no name on it. There's no way to find it. And that's pretty much like a lot of people on LinkedIn, where it's no brand name.
I love that.
So it's using something physical, whether it's a necklace, Lego, something physical that's small, that's not too elaborate. And if it's directly relevant to what you're doing. So in my case, I used the sofa and it doesn't come immediately. I'm going to say it doesn't often come like, ta-da, I've got a topic and I know what physical thing I'm going to use. It takes a few iterations, which is why using your video camera or using your phone's voice messages, when you tell a story, when you decide you're going to include a story, test the story, please. Don't tell the story for the first time in your talk. Make sure you've tested it with someone who's not heard the story. My poor husband has listened to no end of stories from me. And, he is my first point of contact, but he knows me too well. So I have to test with people who are like the people in my audience. So if I've got bankers, I want to test with a banker, my story. And testing your stories out, I know it takes it's an extra step but it really does help. Because if you don't test your story, you won't know if it's going to resonate. And a lot hinges quite often on this big, whatever it is you're using as your anchor. And so this is really important. Have you found that with yourself too, Jillian, as you?
Absolutely. And before we went live today, I was telling you about a Toastmasters experience where I wanted to go for a humorous speech contest. And this was many years ago, and I just had my first child. So I decided to do a speech called, I don't know nothing about birth and no babies. And it was a very, very funny speech. And my Toastmasters group was primarily Native women. And they were all of that age that they could totally relate to the whole, until you have a baby, you don't know what's involved. And it was very funny. And I won for the club. And then I went on to the next level in the district. And it was primarily men that were sitting in the audience and that were the judges. And that topic did not resonate for men. It was hilarious for women, but men could not relate. And that was a really good lesson for me. I didn't make it, obviously, but that was a good lesson for me. I took that as a teachable moment to just recognize the right story for the wrong or the wrong story for the right audience, whatever. It's a mismatch. And so always be clear about who you're sharing with, because those stories, that they're just not going to resonate with the people if they're a bad fit. And that was like a great lesson. And that's how we have to look at things, not as like epic fails, but more as a like, oh, what can I take away from this? What is the lesson I learned? And then write it down, remember it, and then change. It's just like if you showed up and you're like, okay, I'm going to do that starfish story. And then the speaker before you does the starfish story, you'd be like, ah. And that's why it's good to tell personal stories, because most people aren't going to tell your personal story, but they might tell that starfish story.
That's great advice, Jillian. But if you're telling a story, I'm going to add one caveat to telling your own story. When you're up and it's a personal talk, so something where you're sharing something deeply personal, make sure you're speaking from the scar and not the wound, because it's really important not to use your talk as therapy. So what you want to do is to make sure, if you're sharing a personal story, and I've had this with audiences, I teach many classes, and when I invite people up to try out their story, sometimes it's like a therapy session, because they've told the most painful story from their past, and this is not required to connect with an audience. It's not required that you go into your deep, dark past and pick the most painful thing to share with the audience. And even if you're going to speak about a very traumatic incident, so people talk, so you see a lot of people who are from the sporting world who've had very, very traumatic things happen to them in the sport, that they might have lost a limb or something. They've really overcome some great odds. When they are speaking about these overcoming the odds, they are really speaking from their scar. They are healed. They are healed. These people are healed, and they are in a position to share. But so many, particularly new speakers that I see, they're not ready to talk about these things, and you shouldn't talk about things you're not ready to talk about. So not required. You can share a story that you saw on TV. You can share a story that you read. You don't have to always pick the painful, deep story. So yeah, there's a whole movement around vulnerability, but that does not mean you have to do it. You can share the stories that work for the message that you want people to walk away with.
And that's probably the key. What's the transformation? What's the message? Because if there's no, and the moral of the story is, then what's the point?
Right.
Definitely.
Always connect the dots for the audience. Never let them connect the dots for themselves. It's like with Lego, you're just giving them all the bricks and saying, here, have at it. You're not doing.
Absolutely.
You're showing what brick goes where. So in your talk, you should be doing that. And, be responsive to the room. You also have to, what comes with a little bit of experience is becoming responsive to the room. I have had a room where I've converted the audience, and I actually have 20 minutes left to go. And I've decided not to go with points. I might have done point 1 and point 2 and stopped, even though I had point 3. Because I help them. I can feel it. The audience is there. They're on a high. I'm going to stop right here. Don't feel like you have to get everything out. Read the room. If the room is restless, if the room is a little bit more casual, a little bit more formal than you expected, you need to just adjust a little bit to go with that so that you fit in. You want to match the energy of the audience.
I love that. I love that. So we have amazingly, I knew this would just like zoom by. So we've hit our 30-minute mark. And so before we close out, Lavinia, is there any kind of final words of wisdom you'd like to share with everybody on this topic today?
Everyone can do this. Public speaking should not hold you back from creating the career or the business that you want. You can do this. There are talks, hundreds of talks on YouTube. There are trainers, there are free tools everywhere. You can use those. You're welcome to buy our book if you like. You are welcome to come on to my LinkedIn. I quite often share things, and then you'll be connected to other professional speakers. There are free resources out there. Just pick one thing to improve every time. For instance, from today, I asked you to slow down a little bit. So maybe that's the thing you walk away with. The next time you get in front of an audience, just slow down just that tiny weeny bit. You won't get as much into your 10 minutes, but it'll be worth it.
Golden tips, golden tips. And I will put the link to your TED Talk and the link to your book in our comments so that people can get a hold of those. And thank you so much for all the wisdom you shared today. Being able to communicate and public speaking, it's the most incredible way to advance your career. So thank you so much, Lavinia. So glad that you could come on the show. Every single time I listen to that conversation, I walk away with something new. You know what really struck me this time? When she talked about being in the mindset of service rather than focusing on yourself. That's exactly what we need to remember as authors, too. It's not about us looking perfect. It's about serving our readers with the knowledge we have to offer. And I love those 3 tips she shared. Slow down, practice out loud, not just in your head, and know your material so well that you could deliver it even if all the tech fails. Brilliant. Here's my challenge for you this week. Pick just one thing from this conversation and put it into practice. Maybe it's slowing down when you're speaking, or maybe it's just shifting into that mindset of service the next time you're sharing your expertise. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.